I get it. For all of y'all Philadelphia Flyers fans, you might be looking at me, you might have been looking at this video, you saw the title, and you were like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? This guy's not forgotten, he's right there. That's fair. But what I wanted to do was talk about a prospect that I think a lot of NHL fans that aren't necessarily Flyers fans might have forgotten about. Mostly due to the hype of other Flyers prospects that have entered the system recently or within the last year, and just because of the direction that this team is going down. Today, what I wanted to do was not talk about the 2023 drafted prospect the Flyers had in Matvei Michkov, nor the 2022 prospect they had in Cutter Gauthier. Today, I wanted to take a step back to 2020 and go over the Philadelphia Flyers' 23rd overall pick, Tyson Foerster. Because this is a player that, based off of his track record in the AHL, is very much trending towards being a full-time Flyer sometime in the next year, if not this upcoming season. And the thing that I wanted to start this video off with was the conversation about the AHL in general. There are a lot of prospects in NHL systems that have been drafted by NHL teams and that are developing elsewhere in the hockey world, whether that be the NCAA or the junior scene or somewhere in Europe, and I feel like, for the most part, it's pretty easy to see prospects fade out of the spotlight when they make their way to the AHL. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, prospects that have a bunch of hype because they're so good in Sweden or in college, they all of a sudden lose a lot of steam once they become full-time AHL players. I feel like for fans that are just kind of keeping up with the prospects in general, if a guy is not in the NHL when he has the option to be, then they kind of just move to the back of everybody's minds. Of course, if you're a fan of the Flyers in particular, you're definitely paying attention to Lehigh Valley and the Phantoms and what they're doing and how the prospects are developing over there. But maybe it's a combination of this AHL phenomenon as well as the fact that this guy was drafted 3 years ago now that puts him in this position where whenever I see people talking about Flyers prospects, nobody talks about this guy. And what I also wanted to highlight was the fact that the previous 2 first-round picks that the Flyers made, Matvei Michkov and Cutter Gauthier, these 2 guys are pretty similar in terms of what kind of results you're expecting to get. Goals. Sure, Matvei Michkov is a lot more of a cerebral, hockey IQ heavy, shoot first type of winger with a beautiful scoring touch, and Cutter Gauthier is more of a power forward. They're different in the ways they score, but they score a bunch nonetheless. Let's talk today about a guy who also is a goal scorer, and who had made his presence known in the 2020 draft as a heavy shooting, powerful puck distributor. Let's go over to Tyson Foerster. He's 6'2", 194, right-handed guy on the right wing who's 21 years old. Back in 2019-20, when he was draft eligible, he played for the Barrie Colts in the OHL, getting 36 goals and 44 assists for 80 points in 62 games. Now, you'll note the assists were there, but the goals were the most impressive part of his resume. Take a look at the scouting report written on Foerster back in 2020. He's most comfortable setting up shop at the top of the left faceoff circle, taking cross-ice feeds and one-timing them on net with power. He sets up his feeds really well, scanning the ice for where his target is going to be, looking on the pass, and threatening to shoot. He's got one of the best shots in the draft, he can see the ice well, and possesses plus defensive instincts. And so, for Foerster, he had himself a really interesting season afterwards because the OHL did not actually play for 2020-2021, meaning that he was able to head over to the AHL and post up 17 points in 24 games over there. It was a very unique opportunity for a guy that wasn't supposed to be in the AHL, but had to have been because his OHL team wasn't starting up. The next few seasons, you saw more bouncing up and down. Lehigh Valley, Barrie, there were some injuries that he had to battle through in 21-22. But in this most recent season of play, Tyson Foerster in 66 Lehigh Valley Phantoms games had 48 points, 20 goals, and 28 assists. Not to mention the fact that he was a point per game for the Phantoms in the playoffs and had a stint with the regular Flyers, getting 7 points in 8 games, 3 goals, 4 assists. Tyson Foerster, all things considered, is a bona fide NHL-AHL tweener at the moment who is right on the cusp of breaking into an NHL role. Let's head over to the Dobber Prospects write-ups about Tyson Foerster. They've got 2 that I wanted to talk about here. The link is going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and read, but initially they talk about his shoulder injury and how that derailed him in the 2020 2022 season, but by the time December rolled around, this is what the Dobber Prospects folks had to say. Foerster has been having himself a season with the Phantoms, leading the entire team in points. He's developed into a pro hockey body over the course of his time with the Phantoms, which is a great look for the Flyers prospect pool. Foerster has also gradually improved his skating ability. If he keeps up the good work with the Phantoms, he could see a call-up this season with the big club, Claire McManus writes. Then you had yourselves Mark Henry going out there and giving the update at the end of the season. After an impressive AHL stint in 22-23, Foerster was named an AHL All-Star, and on June 7th, 2023, he was named to the AHL's inaugural Top Prospects team, which featured 6 players, 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and 1 goalie, including Foerster. His play during 22-23 was encouraging, given Foerster's development had been seemingly stalled the previous 2 years with injuries. Look for him to compete for an opening night roster spot in 23-24 with the Philadelphia Flyers. And while I'm not necessarily going to say that Tyson Foerster is going to be competing with Bedard and Cooley for the 2024 Calder, I will say that there is a good amount of talent here, and if you wanted to try to project things out into the future, Tyson Foerster right now is 21 years old. By the time he's 24, 25, when Matvei Michkov and Cutter Gauthier are also on this team, you're going to have goal scoring throughout the entire lineup coming in volumes if everything works out the way that we think it can. But for next season, Michkov's not going to be here. Cutter Gauthier is probably going to go back to BC. So Tyson Foerster is the guy to carry that hope in the short term, I guess. And it's interesting because I opened this video up talking about guys and their hype, because with this player, I'm seeing so many Flyers fans go out there and talk about him, but it's mostly in response to other people talking about prospects and young guys in general. You'll see the Cam Robinsons go out there and tweet about the Calder race and talk about who is going to break out next season, etc., etc., and everybody in the comments is saying these names. It's the Flyers fans that are really going out and pushing Tyson Foerster into that conversation too. Hey, don't forget about Foerster. Yeah, you've got all these other young guys that are going to be good rookies. Don't forget about Foerster. Tyson Foerster is right there. Here are his stats. Look at what he did. And because of that entire sentiment, that's why I named this video the way that I did. This is a forgotten prospect in the eyes of many that are just keeping up with the young guys. He was drafted 3 years ago, so you could say that it's been a while, and he's been in the AHL this entire time, so it's tough to really get a good spotlight on that. He's not lighting up the European League, he's not the top guy in the NCAA or anything, he is just in the AHL. So there's an understandable factor as to why Tyson Foerster's name hasn't really been pushed out there, but I really do feel like this is a guy that if you give him the right minutes, you give him the right opportunity in 23-24, there's no telling how good he's going to be. I mean, he was a point per game in the small sample he had with the Flyers this season. What more after being given more confidence and given a bigger role? If he gets, let's say, 20 goals and 45 total points next season, I don't think that will be too unrealistic. I get it, he did just exactly that in the AHL this prior year, and you could say that development from doing that in the AHL to the NHL might be a little bit tight, but there's a lot of talent here, and if you wanted to try to force that younger guy connection, maybe play him with Morgan Frost for now until Matvei Michkov comes around, then be my guest, John Tortorella. So if you're a Flyers fan, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Tyson Foerster and the steps that he had taken this prior year? What are your thoughts about his status as a Flyers prospect? And do you think this guy is getting the love from NHL fans when it comes to talking about young players that are going to make an impact? I personally don't see his name as much as I feel like I should be, but I want you to let me know in the comments if you're feeling the same way too. So, talk to the comments, all your thoughts about Tyson Foerster, the way he's developed, the way he has been trending so far. How do you think he's going to do next season? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.